Have you had any of that, Gareth? Going back to like the freedom movement, or whatever you want to call it, at that time, there was a lot of people come on the scene, and they were sharing a lot of stuff, social media wise, blah blah. A lot of these people have disappeared, completely disappeared. You can't even find their old stuff now. And then, but there's other people who say, people who have stayed in the public eye and haven't given up. People like yourselves and your dad, and a lot other people who's made a name. And then you get people going, well, because they've been allowed to carry on so far, they must be involved with or controlled opposition. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there is controlled opposition. I think thinking back to like the miners' strikes of the 1980s, they were just miners striking, but they were completely infiltrated by British intelligence. So I'm not having it that the freedom movement wasn't infiltrated by them. I believe it absolutely was. Identifying who those people are is slightly more difficult, but I think there would be people within the movement that actually, if you knew the whole truth, that there's probably something quite nefarious there. But you can go so far as well down the rabbit hole where you can just accuse anyone of anything.
Everybody.
So with my dad, I mean, I've had these arguments with people before. It's like, so hang on a minute. So just to get rid of all the crap around the edges, the sole point you're making is because he's not dead, he must be in on it. I mean, that's quite a defeatist attitude as well, isn't it, really? That basically anyone that's going to fight back has to be dead to be legitimate. Well, we may as well give up then, because we'll never, we can't win then, unless we're all dead, and then we've lost because we're all dead. But then you can go so far down the rabbit hole. Like I had it actually with the top I'm wearing. So Sean Barker, who used to be the captain of Derby County, we became friends a few years back, and he started a clothing range. And he said, "Oh, I've got this jumper, releasing this jumper. Do you want one?" I was like, "Obviously." And so he gave it me, and I said, "Well, I'll take a picture on socials and like tag your, thing." Mate, underneath it, people going like, and it's funny because it's like, right, Ram. So there we are, Satan. There's two, so it's as above, so below. So what you're saying is blah blah. And I was looking at the picture of me going, "Oh, maybe I am controlled opposition then." Because I didn't even realise. I just thought it was a football. It says the Rams on it, it's a Derby County thing. And I was like, oh my God, they've seen stuff that's
not there.
That's not there, yeah. But then I understand that actually that symbolism is everywhere, and actually people do use that symbolism. But actually, oh, hang on a minute. But then I also get it for, I did a single years ago called Beat Up. And on the cover, I've got a black eye. Well, the song's called Beat Up. Yeah. That's eye, covering the eye because of Illuminati. I'm like, oh, mate, I can't escape. Can't escape,
That's the thing about the internet is everyone's got their opinion, but all the one truth is hidden by all the lies. So everyone's so confused and everyone's throwing out this bullshit.
Yeah,
and I think Robbie Williams, probably the only decent thing he ever said was, one thing is being red-pilled, the other is being a red pillock.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's true, yeah. But I think that's what a lot of this royal stuff's about, is create confusion, just create complete, because then you basically just break up the movement, don't you? Because if people all came together, then you could end it in a heartbeat, but you get everyone fighting. And I see it all the time on social media. It's like this huge ruck between so-and-so and so-and-so, and it's like, but you're on the same team. You might disagree about, some of the little tiny details, but actually fundamentally, we're all the 99.9%. We are that. Yeah. And we're fighting over, who said what, or what colour skin's what, or what sexuality is what. And the people above must be just absolutely laughing their asses off, looking down. Prats are all still fighting each other. And I think that on so many things, even that Israel-Palestine, the average everyday Israeli, as much as I hate the term average everyday, but you get my point, members of the public of Israeli, the same with Palestinians, either in the West Bank or in Gaza, they have more in common with each other than either of them do with the far-right Netanyahu government or Hamas, which is controlled by the far-right Netanyahu government anyway. Because Hamas don't give a shit about Palestinians, and the Israeli government doesn't give a shit about Israelis. Yet these are the two that are fighting and killing each other. Yeah. And it's just such a perfect example for every single day.
That's throughout the world, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. Every single day. You send the plebs in the old days, under the banner of Confederates or whatever in America, or the banner of the royalists and the parliamentarians. You go in and just send a load of plebs to die for you. Everyone at the top is just laughing.
I've never had any problems with decent working class human beings.
Neither have I.
From whatever race, whatever religion. If
you don't, and if you travel, the more you travel, the more you'll realise people throughout the world are similar people.
Yeah, just want to be safe and happy and see the children. So.
Everyone just wants to get on. I remember that even as a kid. I was in Normandy in '94. I remember Bill Clinton came over and stuff. It was to do with commemorating the D-Day landings and stuff like that. And we just happened to be there at the same time. Like, we weren't there to see Bill Clinton. And we went to a couple of the war graves because we were staying in this village and we'd rented this little cottage. And opposite was a farm that actually owned the cottage. And we would go and they'd give us eggs and milk and whatever in the morning. And there was a guy staying with them who'd lost his brother in the D-Day landings. He was Canadian and he would come every year because the farmer's dad, I think, pulled him out of a plane or something, but he died later or whatever. There was a connection anyway. And so he was, he said he was going to go around some graves and see his brother's grave and see some other people that he knew. It was this old guy. And so we went with him just out of interest. And you walk along these graves and it's like 22, 23, 21, 22, 23. Every now and then you might get a 30-year-old who's maybe slightly higher up the pecking order, but they're all just early 20s. And they're these beautiful white stone headstones, a lot of which actually came from Derbyshire, for the Commonwealth graves actually come out of the ground in Derbyshire and works with. But then you go to the German one and they're black crosses, really dark, dank, black, quite, morbid. 21, 22, 23, 21. They're just kids on both sides. Do you know what I mean? They're just kids that were just sent to die for what, really? For nothing, because it didn't change anything.
And usually working class kids. So most of your military, certainly from the British military, has always come from like mining areas, this, that, and the other, very working class backgrounds.
Yeah. And that's what's so funny now with that whole kind of talk of conscription. Because what they've basically done is in this country for decades now is basically white working class lads are literally the bottom rung of the ladder, and that's not even just an opinion. They just are statistically. They're the most likely to become an alcoholic, the most likely to become a drug addict, the least likely to go to university, least likely to have a career, and all these sort of things.
And suicide.
And suicide, they're most likely to commit suicide. So they literally are the bottom rung of the ladder. So you've spent decades basically just neglecting and destroying a certain part of your population, and then you talk about conscription. So you want this part of the population to go and fight Russia for you,
vilified as the white van man.
Exactly.
Look at him with the St. George, little racist bully.
And so when they spoke about it, that part of the population very publicly went, "Stick it up your arse." Why would I fight for you?
Exactly.
I remember seeing one guy going off on one. He was like, "Mate," he said, "if the Russians invaded, I'd be on the beach to greet them." At this point, given the way that this country's been turned into a hellhole,
These politicians saying they're giving the rhetoric of it's like 1939 all over again. No, it's fucking.
What are you on about? And the thing is, I'm not a Putin lover. You don't become leader of Russia for that long. And I don't think you become a leader of any nation if you're a good guy. I think he's perfectly playing the pantomime villain, and it's all just a chess game. So I'm not a fan. But at the same time, when you've got people like Sunak coming out and bemoaning the fact that he's won another election with 88% of the vote, and you're looking at Sunak going, "You didn't even win an election." You're in no position. You're in no position to say it's extraordinary.
It made me laugh the other day. Grant Shapps is like on TV publicly saying, if Putin's not careful, they're going to feel the full force of us. I thought, bet Putin is absolutely shitting himself with Grant Shapps threatening him on live TV.
It's embarrassing, isn't it? It makes me think of that. Who's the one before? My dad used to call him Pike. Gavin Williamson. He was defense secretary for a minute. And mate.
What a wet.
Total wet wipe, yeah. But Shapps is the same.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, nothing happens by accident at all. You know, everything in this country is just being destroyed, including the military. Same with the US. You know, with woke quotas and all the other nonsense that just like.
Well, going back to the vaccine, they tried to make the military take the vaccine in the US, didn't they? And they lost that many Marines and all the rest of it. They've never replaced that.
Yeah, I know a couple of Navy SEALs, and they were adamant that they weren't going to take it, and they didn't actually. But they didn't actually lose the jobs because they were badly needed. Put it that way.
Yeah, I got a mate in the Navy who refused it, along with about 5 other guys. I think the rest of them all on this aircraft carrier all got it, but the 5 that didn't, I think it was 5. It wasn't many that didn't get it. We're all just segregated from everyone else and had to do things that only with the group of them that were, you know, they were completely cast out. I think with the intention of breaking them. So in the end, they go, all right, fine, go on then.
Yeah.
But none of them did. They all just, you know, stuck fast to it and
Good
refused,
for them.
You know. Yeah, good for them, exactly, yeah. Yeah, and now, you know, this stuff's coming out more and more every single day. And this is the thing, and I say this to people. It's like, so I'm not a doctor, a virologist, or, you know, a vaccinologist or any of this thing. Don't even claim to be. So how did I know then? How did you know, and how did you know? Yeah, all these doctors, all these TV doctors, and all these people, these professors and whatever, and these heads of these you know, NHS trusts and whatever. How come they didn't know, and we did with absolutely no medical background, and we were proved to be correct? That's the question, isn't it? And it's the same. Like I was talking to a doctor in.
We didn't get paid to push it, though.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing. Follow the science. I'll follow the science when the science can't be bought. Until that point, I'll ask questions. Thanks. But I was talking to this doctor, Gerard Waters, who's basically been suspended for like 3.5 years now without pay because he called out Rona and he refused to administer the vaccines in Ireland. So they're basically trying to make an example of him, to be honest. But he came on and he was saying to me, so the first thing I knew from the beginning, he said, because a respiratory illness doesn't make you collapse like you've been shot in the head. He said, so it's as simple as that. And he said, I was saying to like my colleagues, like, why are you going along with this? Like, you know, that's not how you die. Like in China, you know, they were just dropping like that, like they'd just been taken out with a sniper rifle. But so many doctors looked at that and went, yep, I'm on board. What do you mean? You know that's bollocks. You must know that's bollocks, because if you don't, I'm not sure you should be practicing medicine. And then, you know, same again in India, wasn't it? Yeah. They used India again to try and revamp it, didn't they? Where again, people collapsed and died in the street. It's like, that's not how people die.
But the other thing that no one ever questioned, such as South Africa, for example, in these townships, well, if it was real and it was spreading how it should spread, well, everybody in them townships should have been dead.
Yeah.
And there wasn't. They had such a low rate compared to Western countries, with very little sanitation, everybody living on top of each other. It was just, how could it not spread like wildfire in these places?
Well, that's the thing. It's we're told allegedly spreads through care homes where everyone was sat in separate rooms, not allowed to interact with each other, sat in front of bargain hunt all day, spread through there and killed everyone. But like you say, these townships where people are living 20 to a house and not a problem.
Nothing made sense, but yet people were trying for some reason to make things making the unsensible sensible. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, so many different reasons why there were excess deaths, apart from the one reason that everyone's, you know, the elephants crushing the coffee table and no one's acknowledging it. But it's I think what people did as well when it came to the jab is they gave their power to authority, because that was easier. And I think, like for me, I go, right, okay, I'm not getting it, period. So that means if I'm totally wrong about this and I've totally misjudged it and I'm lying there in hospital and I'm dying, my lungs are filling up with fluid, and if I'd only had that jab, and I realise at that point, I fucked up. That's on me.
And it's only going to affect one person.
Yeah, but it's my responsibility. That's on me. Shit. Whereas if I get it and I get ill and I'm lying there in a hospital bed because the vaccine's done me, that's not my fault. That's my Hancock's fault. That's the media's fault. That's my boss's fault.
Yeah.
And so it's that way of, well, for a lot of people that didn't necessarily know the answer, They go, right, well, I'm going to take that answer because at least if that one's the wrong answer, I can blame someone else for it. And I think there's a lot of that has gone on. People just won't take the responsibility for themselves. I want someone to save me. You know, Hillary lost, I need a safe space. You've sort of created that within society. Trust the experts, trust the science, where people just go, I don't know. And that let them decide.
During COVID, that was the crazy thing when people say, well, we've got to wait to see what Boris says. Thinking, what? Really? You're a grown man and you're waiting to see what that frigging idiot is going to tell you what to do next week.
Well, many had the fear God put into them, didn't they? It was like, you're all going to die.
But I think, like Gareth just said there, it was easier for people to let other people make that decision. So it's...
Yeah. I think the fear of the virus didn't last long. Initially, I get it. I think there was a lot of fear about it. And I was talking to people online, and I was just saying to people, look, I don't know what's going on. I know I'm being lied to. I know that much, but I don't really understand what's going on. So all I've done, this is like February 2020. I was like, all I've done is I've just upped the amount of vitamin D and vitamin C I'm taking. That's it. Like, I'm not changing my lifestyle. I'm not locking myself in my ass, but I will up my intake of that. And then within no time, it was like, oh, actually, this is just nonsense. But, you know, that was my thing at first. And so there was a bit of fear among some people. But then after a while, I think that fear disappeared, really. And people accepted that actually, yeah, this isn't as bad as we were made out, whatever. And then the fear went from a virus to then maybe a little bit of fear of authority, but I don't think that lasted long. And it became the fear of what the neighbours would say. So it's like people were locking themselves in their houses, not going out, not going to the park, not going out 3 times a day because I'm only allowed to go out once for shopping and once for exercise. Not because they thought the police were going to bang on the door, but because Joan across the road with her pots and pans is going to slag me off in the Facebook page. And it's like, who gives a shit? Joan's a dick. Like, who cares? Like, it's not, what are you frightened of? You know, you've been given this incredible life, whatever you believe happens when we die or where we come from or where we go, whatever, you've got this unbelievable opportunity to live and experience this realm. You know, just the fact that your body works enough to get out of bed in the morning is a miracle, the amount of things that need to happen. And you're sat on the sofa because Joan might say something on Facebook. I mean, that's embarrassing, man. That, you know, come on.
You went to an airport and everybody was like 2 meters apart, queuing up with masks on. And then they went and sat all together in a little tin box, took the masks off when they were going to eat, and then put them back on when they'd finished.
It was mad. I mean, I remember there was one guy, he was a nice enough guy before I went to school with him, and he'd put on his Facebook page how this guy wasn't wearing a mask. This was on July the 29th, so this was the day they'd come in 2020. So like, he wasn't wearing a mask. He refused to wear one. Everyone kicked off at him and whatever. His pregnant girlfriend was crying, and it was almost put on as a bit of almost like he had it coming for not wearing it. And I was like, so I just replied to him going, did you wear one yesterday? He's like, what? I was like, did you wear one yesterday when you went shopping? He's like, no, why? The rule only came in today. Well, that I don't need to say anything else then. That's insane. You've berated a guy in a shop, made his pregnant girlfriend cry because the government told you had to wear a mask today, but you didn't have to wear it yesterday. You're an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is how it's easy to control the world.
We're going to close the pubs on Thursday at 6 o'clock. You know, like they issue this statement Monday morning. What's happening Tuesday and Wednesday? Is it not going to be around for them a couple of days?
You can't catch it if you're not standing up. You're all right to eat, sitting down and.
But the thing is, I remember seeing that someone had shared this thing. It was from Amnesty International, and it was to do with torture of prisoners of war. And I think it came maybe the Second World War onwards. I think it was around about that time, or it might have even been the Vietnam War anyway. That's where this Amnesty International thing was taking their statistics from. And it was all these different things that were done to break down a prisoner of war. Obviously, it's sleep deprivation and all that sort of stuff. But they were the psychological ones. And one of them, I mean, it was Biden's law of something. And so I was going down it, and every single one was Rona. It was like one by one by one. And then there was one, which I'll paraphrase, but it's basically if you can make someone do something that they know is bollocks, but they do it anyway, you know, whether it be, you know, stand upside down on your hands, do whatever, sit down, stand up. You know where, like in America, they'll go on your belly, hands behind your back, hands on your head. Like it's like just making them like you're just breaking the person, basically. Yeah. And that's what they did by making people do that kind of. You know, I've got a mask. I've sat down, mask off. 2 hours of chatting. Oh, need a wee. Off again. You know, and I was looking at people doing that, going, "Are you mental? Yeah. Like that's insane." Well, what they've done is they've got you to do something insane, and by doing it, you become insane.
I was in a bar, in a pub, and it was when they brought this crazy rule: only 4 could sit at a table. Can you remember that one? And the police used to come round, so I'm sat with 3 of the lads, and then there's a table with 4 more on, straight behind me, literally a foot away from me. So I pulls my chair back, and I'm talking to them. Next thing, I sees the landlady, like, waving her arms at me like a lunatic. I'm thinking, what? I looks round, the police come in, and this policewoman comes up, and she says, "What you doing?" I went, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" She says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm talking to my mate." "Why? What's your problem?" She says, "There's 5 of you on this table now." I says, "Are you fucking real?"
6 now.
Yeah.
I says, "Do you really believe what you're saying to me?" I says, "Just go away, get out of my face." So anyway, she did. She left. But then the landlady come up and said, "Dennis, that's out of order." I says, "Why?" She went, "We're going to get fined now." And and they were frightened, making people that scared that she says, "I could get a £10,000 fine." I went, "Get a grip." What? Because one of your customers has talked to one of his mates.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But they were making people believe this, that they could get a £10,000 fine.
Yeah, because people can't see the difference between law and corporate legalities. There's, like you said, Gareth, there was never any law. No. You've got to do this.
Well, that's the thing. They fined people for protesting, you know, like £1,000 or whatever it was. And there was hundreds, I think it was like 300 and something fines dished out in one particular London protest. 2 of them paid it. 2 people paid the fine. And then they just ripped all the fines up and went, "Yeah, actually, there's no legal standpoint for this." So they ripped it all up. Didn't refund those 2 though. Yeah. Once they got the money, you're done. But all the ones that refused it, they just had their thing ripped up, done. Yeah, because it's nonsense. There was never any justification that, you know. But I tell you what I did see, which was very interesting. I was speaking down in Truro, in Cornwall.
So one of the things on the Biden's chart of coercion was occasional indulgences, right? So let people have a little bit. There's a biscuit, mate. There you go. Enjoy that. And what it does is that encourages compliance, right? And that's exactly what they've done. They're going to give us Christmas. And just as a little sort of segue to that, I've seen quite a lot of people saying, "Boris is an idiot. Why is he giving them Christmas? You know, he's not doing it because he wants to do it. Trust me, he's doing it because he has to do it. Because as was displayed in the second lockdown, no one complied. Woo! And so no one's gonna comply. No one's gonna go, "Oh, I want to see my mum at Christmas, but the fat Milky Bar kid said I can't, so I'm not going to."
And I'm there, and there's the police dotted around. It's a huge turnout, to be fair, for, you know, what is not a very big Cornish town. And the police were around the back, and they were fine. There was the one with the blue hat, like the liaison officer. He was going around talking to people. Everything was fine. It was a nice day. They locked down that night for Christmas. They cancelled Christmas that night. Because I was driving back. I was supposed to stay in Exeter, but my dad was like, "Get back to the Isle of Wight," because my wife and kid were already down there for Christmas. He was like, "Because they might cancel the boats. And if they do, you're stuck on the mainland having Christmas on your own." So I was like, okay. So I went straight back to the Isle of Wight. Drove 10 hours that day. But anyway, I'm there giving this speech, and I think Piers Corbyn was there, a couple of other people. And as soon as it ended, so the last person spoke, one of the organisers, a lady called Jo, she grabbed me by the arm and she went, "Go, let's go." And I was like, "What? Everything's fine." She was like, "No." And I saw, as I was being ushered out to get into a car, basically the multi-storey car park behind, the police moved in because they couldn't stop a protest, because you have the right to protest, but you can stop an illegal gathering. So they surrounded it, absolutely fine, for a couple of hours of different people speaking. As soon as the last speech finished, It stopped being a protest, and then it was just an illegal gathering, and they moved in and started nicking people. Absolute scumbags. Absolute scumbags. But they knew it was coming. They'd obviously seen it. I'm bloody wet behind the ears with it. I was just like, it's fine. They're like, no, get the hell out of here. And so, yeah, got bundled into a car and drove off.
And they was doing that in the protests, at the end of the protest, where they were going in, beating shit out of people with batons, weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. They were going in hoping to get smacked back. That's what they were doing. They were going in, clobbering a couple of people, hoping someone's going, I'm not having it, bang. And as soon as then, the police have got all the excuse they need to move in harder, and also the media's got the story.
Yeah.
Anti-vaxxers fighting police, you know. Embarrassing.
Well, we had a thing, Dennis, the other week when we did the pilot thing. I firmly believe that if you know, when the next big thing comes around that they test the people with, that as many will acquiesce to it.
Well, I sent you that yesterday, didn't I?
I hope not.
There's this SPARS scenario, which is John Hopkins University, which they're like...
Yeah, it's all the same players. Yeah.
They're all funded by the same people again. And they've created this scenario, like they did with COVID in 2019. They've created that now, and it's been released. It's an 85-page document from 25 to 28. And it's this new SPARS epidemic, pandemic, whatever.
Can't wait for that one. Yeah. Do you know what I found funny though? Like, and I've not been able to. I could only find it for about a week, and then I couldn't find it. And it was on. I'm sure it was Office National Statistics. It was government website anyway. And because I was of the opinion that they were rebadging deaths, and I know they were, of course. You know, everything was a COVID death. I get that they were doing that, but it hadn't occurred to me that actually they could just be making it up. And, you know, if someone says to you, I mean, we're in Doncaster, if someone says to you, oh, yeah, there's 10,000 people died in Sheffield, how do you verify that? Like, how do you even begin to verify that or disprove it? You can't, you know. Harder to do that in a village where everyone knows everyone. So when it started to enter my head that I do want, could they just make sure? So I searched and I managed to find my village when I lived in Kilburn in Derbyshire in the Amber Valley. Kilburn's tiny. It's 2 roads basically with houses on them. That's it. And so I was interested to see what it said during the whole period. So I think this was about 18 months into Rona. And it said 26 COVID deaths, right? Now, everyone knows everyone in Kilburn. Like, it's a tiny place. Fish and chip shop, did have 3 pubs. By the end of COVID, it had 1 because 2 went under. And a corner shop, that's it. There's nothing else there, right? So 26. There was one lady died during COVID. She was 3 doors down from me, very elderly, very poorly for a long, long time. Lovely lady. It was really sad, actually. But there was forever ambulances going and taking her off and whatever, even before Rona. And then during it, an ambulance was there again. And I looked down, and the lady next door to her, she looked at me and she went like that. And I was like, oh, that's sad. That's sad. So there's 1. So I look at, like, they're on the website, 26. I was like, that's bullshit. Like, that is literally bullshit. There's no way 25 more people have died in this tiny village and no one's talking about it, or no one's going, oh, I've not seen Andy in the corner shop. You know, it was just, they've just made that up. And like I say, I was there, I was sharing it with people, and I was saying, look, you need to look at this. Look at your town and your village. Less easy in a city, obviously, but if you live in a village of 20 houses and it says 5 deaths, you know they're lying. So I was like, you know, get on this. And I've never been able to find it since. It's like, literally, can't find it. It's gone. Like, it's taken down. But I thought after that, I was like, oh no, yes, they rebadged stuff, but they literally just made it up as well. They literally made up figures. Because if you're on the Isle of Wight, say, for instance, and you look at, oh yeah, what's Kilburn like in the Amber Valley? I don't know why you'd be looking at Kilburn, but say you were. 26, oh, it's only a tiny village. 26, bloody hell. You know, that's like I am in the plague, isn't it? It's like wiped out the whole village. Oh, it's awful, isn't it? Absolute nonsense.
Well, there was a similar thing as somebody shared on the internet, and I looked that up, and it was like, if you put in 633 corona deaths, and then you put in America, it would give you a story on that in a city, and it'd give you, if you put it in Malaysia, and it would just, this same story were repeated throughout the world, but with the exact same and the same numbers.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So, what do you think then, Gareth? For some positive notes, the public seem to be like headless sheep, and the internet doesn't make it any easier, does it?
No, I think I'm positive though, in the sense that I think people have actually now realised that the world they live in isn't the world they thought they lived in, and I think that's a start. You know, I think there's certain things you can talk about to anyone now. If I went out from here into any shop and you started bringing up subjects to them, you could have a conversation with someone now about it that if you tried to do it 5 years ago, they'd have tried to have you sectioned. And I think, you know, that's something that actually, you know, I've seen people, I think there's probably memes about it saying like, you know, they wanted a great reset, but they sparked a great awakening. I think there is something happening. And I think the fact that they're sprinting for the finish line, I see as an absolute positive, because they wouldn't be doing that if they didn't have to, you know. Like in the old days, they'd throw a crisis at you, everyone gets stressed, they'd take away some freedoms, they'd take away some money, and then they'd allow you a little bit of a valve to just chill. The economy would start doing all right for a bit. You know, I might invest some money in some home improvements, and then they'd hit you with another one, and oh bollocks, you know.
Yeah.
And that had gone on for forever. Whereas now it's every day, isn't it? Bang this, then it's that, bang bang, and so it's just this chaos. But I don't think they'd be doing that unless they felt they had to, you know.
10-year recessions. We've always had like 10-year recessions, haven't we?
Yeah. And how do you deal with it psychologically wise? I mean, your dad went through enough. I mean, your dad's a strong fellow, isn't he? Very much.
Good days and bad days, to be honest, mate.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I'm always positive. I find myself, you know, frustrated at certain things, but I try and laugh at stuff as well. I find that really important, to just find joy and humour in stuff. And I think that's maybe part of being British, that we have a dark sense of humour.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you smash your face in, you laugh because, that or cry. And so, yeah, that gets me through it, you know. But I do see some light. I do, you know. And I think just this whole royal family nonsense, the fact that so many more people are talking about, hang on. I mean, the idea that the royal family and the media and government would all conspire together, that's pretty much, I reckon, probably. Whereas, again, 5 years ago, tinfoil that, mate. Bloody mad. Yeah. Not everything's conspiracy.
You think it's the beginning of the end for the royal family, or if
I think they don't want them. I don't think they want the royal family. I don't think they want anything that is significantly part of your culture. So I think, as much as I can't stand the royal family, they're British, aren't they? In terms of it's you know, Buckingham Palace and the Queen and all this sort of stuff.
And people still do look upon it as part of the culture, don't they?
Yeah.
Even though they've got nothing in common with a common man, a lot of commoners still like the royal family, don't they?
Yeah. And so I think anything that's culturally British, they want rid of.
Yeah.
And I think so that you know, they've served very well, not the people. They've served the elite very well for, you know, best part of 1,000 years or whatever. But I think I can't see them being in place in a decade, to be honest.
No, especially since Elizabeth fell off the perch.
Yeah, I think, you know, Charles is you know, a very unlikable person. Where'd you go from there?
What's the little kid's called?
George, one of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've all got the same names, haven't they?
Yeah.
They keep it like that. But
Beatrice.
I think you know, once the public doesn't have an appetite for it, they'll happily get rid. And what you'll see is then that their offspring then will just go into politics and go into banking and go into media, just like every other royal family, the French royal family, whatever that's gone. Their bloodline still carries on. It just doesn't have that cultural significance of the royal British family, and that sort of stuff. I think.
And you always hear that. Well, if they've gone, what are we going to replace them with? Like a president?
Yeah.
And you just think, well,
what do they do anyway?
Yeah.
Because you tell me that they have no power. See, that's what makes me laugh. The same people that say, well, what are we going to replace them with then, are the same people that go, they're just a figurehead. They don't have any actual power. Well, which one is it then?
Yeah.
But let's get royal assent.
Well, that's the thing. Even like, George Galloway just gets elected and he goes and obviously he has to, do his pledge to the king. He's not pledging to the people. He's pledging to the king because that's what he has to do. And I just think, like, for me, because I said about that and someone said, well, what would you have done in that position? So I wouldn't have pledged allegiance to the king. I'd have stood there and I'd have said, I pledge allegiance to the people of Rochdale that have elected me, and I pledge allegiance to the people of Great Britain. And if they kick off about that, well, that's a story in itself, isn't it? And so you're poking the hornet's nest a bit with that. That's what I'd have done personally.
What would you think would be a better way than of leading a democratic nation? 6 good women and 6 good men, all that business.
I think we're going to find ourselves going back far more local, if I'm honest. Yeah. I think, basically taking care of our tribe, for want of a better phrase, where people just localise stuff. And, the days of the village elder and all that sort of thing, I think, we'll probably end up going back to that.
The devolved power, moving it back to, say, like Yorkshire.
I think that's how it should be. I mean, you look at London, and even if you pretend that there isn't an elite above all this stuff, and you go, okay, there's the real elite. Then is just the metropolitan elite. Let's pretend there's nothing above that. Some guy in Shoreditch gives a toss about East Midlands. Care less. Got nothing in common with anyone. Doesn't know or want to know anything about your life. Yet they're going to make decisions for the better of you. So it's nonsense. The East Midlands should make decisions for the East Midlands. And everywhere should be the same. And then, then you can have some way of coming together above that, just so everything, works or whatever. But I think,
So what you're trying to say is they're going to let us build back better.
I don't think they want it, but they want to go the opposite way. They want a one world government. I firmly believe that, So I look at it and I go, right, what do they want? They want a one world government. Right, well, what's the furthest away from that we can be? Right, we'll localise then. Done. Let's do that. Yeah.
Well, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, at times come the I know you've got things to do.
Yeah, I've got to come and pick up the little one from school.
All day listening to you. Honestly,
it's been great chatting, mate. I've enjoyed it. I've been very jealous watching you sipping the whiskey. I was thinking, oh yeah.
I know. I'm driving. I know.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great, mate. It's been much appreciated.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I could have spent many more hours at that, and
we'll do it another time if you like.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll get a hotel room. We'll go out after.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.